Good evening and happy Friday night from FTB Sport. Absolutely, sharers, likers on YouTube, on Twitter, and please get your comments in. We have with us, ladies first, an absolutely wrecked emotionally Rossa after watching the penalty shootout, and we'll come on to that in a minute. Chris Gunner King, who is keen to analyse England and has a little bit of Swiss interest in there as well. So I tell you what, Rossa, ladies first, tell us how drained you are after that game. How did Spain manage to get over that finishing line?
It's been difficult. I know that Spain hasn't got a very strong side this Euros to start with. But I honestly thought from the start that Switzerland would just not be as difficult to rival as it was. Even after beating France, I think that, to me, that match, the French lost it more than the Swiss won. It's just that the French, from the start, underestimated the Swiss, and when they wanted to react, it was too late. I don't think Spain underestimated Switzerland after what's happened with France, but they have a football that is what they know they can do with what they have in terms of players. So basically,
they were awful in front of goal. You've got to say, they did their best to, almost snatch failure from success. I was just, what were your thoughts on changing Morata at half time?
I think that Morata had failed quite a few chances on the first half, and Luis Enrique did not want to put the pressure on him that if things weren't, in the wrong way and we lost, that he could be the villain in front of all of Spain, because he already is, and he's had criticism like you can't imagine.
And death threats, yeah.
Death threats to his children.
Yeah. What? I mean, Harry Kane has as well, but that's only from FTB Sport. But there you go. No, that was a joke. It was a joke. We wouldn't do that sort of thing. We're all brothers in arms.
And I was happy. I thought that Moreno would do well. Then at the end of the day, I've missed Morata in a few occasions. I think that there's been chances there that Morata would have materialized more likely than Moreno. To me, the man of the match in Spain has been definitely Jordi Alba.
Yeah, Alba's.
He's been everywhere. He's done absolutely everything with very little assistance at the back. And he's been our only hope, apart from scoring the goal that unfortunately probably came too early for us.
What I like about Alba, every time I watched him, I saw him tonight, is he takes the ball early. He will volley it in, he'll half volley it in, whatever it takes to get that extra millimetre ahead of the defenders. He doesn't blink. He takes his decisions in an instant. Which pass out.
I think he's having like a second lease on his career. When a couple of years ago we would have said he's finished, it's towards the end, and suddenly he's like having a second youth, and he's playing beautifully with all the experience.
I didn't realise how two-footed he was as well till tonight. How really two-footed he is as well. He's not all left foot. When I saw him swinging one from the right, but I'm going to throw it over to Gunner King for a moment, Chris, because. I think there was quite a serious impact in that. Let's call them the teams that are less deep, and I've made this case in the Premier League as well. You get one or two injuries at Southampton or Palace or Brighton and those sort of clubs, and you're in deep shit. Whereas the top half teams or the top half countries can handle a couple of suspensions, etc. But Granit Xhaka, who had played out of his skin, I mean, he was playing balls like bloody Cruyff in the previous round, was suspended, and I thought Switzerland were awful tonight. What's your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of Granit Xhaka, I think he's had a fantastic career before he came to Arsenal. He integrated into the Swiss team at a very young age, and for Gladbach, for all intents and purposes, good kind of box-to-box midfielder or kind of a deeper line playmaker. He's come up to Arsenal. I think he's been asked to be more of a defensive midfielder, and I don't think that really suits his game. And I don't think the Premier League suited his game either. So we know what's happened with Arsenal, but for whatever anyone wants to say about Arsenal and his very close, it seems, to a move away from us, he's had another good tournament, because he always performs for Switzerland. He always is consistent. He's their captain, he's their leader, and he galvanizes the other players around them. You know, I think you only look at the France game, he was man of the match in that game. You know, the assist that he provided for the goal that took them to extra time, you know, shows that he can make incisive passes forward. I just wish he did it for Arsenal. But in terms of the other side of it, really, discipline has always been, it's never been his forte. And as you said, you know, I think for the Arsenal squad, could he get away with that more? Maybe. I still think we're a bit short in midfield, but definitely for Switzerland, he is a talisman, and he's the main man in midfield. And Spain, the formation that they play, you know, with technical midfielders where they flood the center of midfield as well, his influence was needed today. And I think I don't want to slate him off. I don't want to further any agenda that there is against him from Arsenal fans, because there already is one. And I don't hate him, and I understand how he's reacted the way he has in some circumstances. But yeah, you have to look at that and say that he has let his teammates down.
Yeah, two yellow cards. I felt sent Switzerland out of the tournament. I know he wasn't on the pitch, but he probably had more influence by that lack of discipline than almost everything else, because it would have been like Bale losing Ramsey or Wales losing Ramsey or Bale. You know, it's that sort of level of influence. Yeah, by the way, Rossa, this is the end of my white Rioja for the Spanish game. I think I might move on to a Chianti for the Italian coming up. I purposely went out to this wine store today, and I spent more than 10 quid, which is a rarity for me on a Spanish white Rioja just for the first game. I'm going to take this, you know, whatever the other games is, try and get a wine or whatever that's in line with that. Or now the Germans have gone home, I can't even go for the beer. So moving on, you know, we've learnt some lessons from Spain. Bloody hell, I hope we don't go through the mix like you went through it tonight. I
don't wish it to anyone.
But, you know, if Switzerland, we have to beware, because Switzerland can take Spain to penalties, can beat France. Ukraine have a chance. And
Absolutely.
we have to finish them off. Our nation can't handle us going to penalties in that way. But I really hope Jordan Pickford was watching your man Simon from Bilbao, because his movement in front of the penalty take, if anybody watches it, kind of to left to right, to left to right. Technically, he still had a foot on the line. He was doing a 2021 version of Bruce Grobbelaar, and it was really, really effective. 3 of those Swiss penalty takers.
What if he hadn't been effective? Yeah. What would he be saying now? That he was like playing.
But I think it's situational. If you've got a relatively inexperienced player in front of you taking a penalty, you juggle to left and right, and it puts them off. Honestly, those Swiss players were almost bamboozled by it. But anyway, to the England game, Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you. You know, now poor Rossa's gone through the mill, and we're desperately hoping we can't. But at least it teaches a bloody lesson that the Ukraine ain't going to roll over. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. You know, I think I've heard a lot of fans saying a lot of things, and a lot of pundits, people that are involved in the sport, saying, look, you know, if England don't get to the final, it'll be an absolute disaster. And look, on paper, the teams that are in front of us are beatable teams, but the players and the setup don't need that pressure. You know, we know what the media furore can be like in England. We know it's like unprecedented compared to other countries, you know, like the amount of pressure and the intensity that they report these stories with. You know, these players don't live in bubbles. They live in the internet age. You know, the social media is there. They're seeing the fans saying all these things, and I don't think that helps them at all. Mm. And I don't think the mindset that all we need to do to beat Ukraine is turn up is the right one, because Sweden were thinking the same thing. On paper, Sweden were the far better team in the last game against the Ukraine, and they showed grit and determination and desire to want to win the game. You know, okay, the sending off influenced the game heavily, but they hung in there and they took their chances. And in Zinchenko, they've got a very dangerous player who is aware of you know, the England setup. He's played against many of them in the Premier League, and they've got other good players. You know, Shevchenko, their manager, again, he's played in the Premier League with Chelsea. So it's not a given and at all. You know, I'd expect us to do well, but yeah, I think we need to go in there with the right mindset, and I think fans need to have a bit of respect for the opposition that we're facing, and a little bit of foresight to remember to have an idea of what they're sharing their thoughts so publicly what effect that can have on the team and the manager.
I hope they look to Spain, because the Spanish press and opposing fans, they've destroyed Morata. They have been on him like a pack of dogs. If we think they've got after Kane, compared with the way the Spanish have got after Morata, it's been, I mean, his kids have had death threats and God knows what, which is bonkers. And actually, he'd scored a goal before Harry Kane, which is outrageous. And as you're saying, if you're in the internet age, which of course they all are, they're going to read that. They're going to read the abuse. You know, that's just wholly unacceptable. Yeah, I agree wholehearted on that. You know, it's a relatively young team as well. And,
exactly.
You know, what I do applaud Southgate at is getting the mix right. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if tomorrow night he doesn't play Phillips and he plays Henderson, I get it. I get that bit of experience, and the pinging of the ball around might help in what could be a high pressure situation. You know, it may not be the most popular choice, but that would be the choice that I would make, putting that mature leader on the park for a quarterfinal and then a semi-final. And we know we got the likes of Grealish, we got Sancho to make substantial impact. I'd leave the team alone. I'd start with Saka, and I'd leave it alone apart from Henderson for Phillips. And you got loads and loads of impact players. I'm going to give it a little bit of parochial. I wonder who is the best left wing back in Manchester, because we're going to see tomorrow night, aren't we? We're going to see Shaw probably at left wing back for England, and we're going to see Zinchenko on the other side, and that will be interesting. They also have a little man of the match, left wing back of the match award. So you know, if Errol and these merry men are out there, and Adam, the United guys out there, let's see what we say on the banter as we go along. And
absolutely.
Rossa, tomorrow night on England, you're going to be watching. Thoughts? Can they do it?
You're right in that it's the kind of match that you're going to need a leader on the pitch, someone with the experience and the authority towards the other players, because I think that we missed that during the extra time when Koke was removed. Koke is the one that has that role in our team, and you can see that all these younger lads, they're lost. Because you have Busquets and Jordi Alba to start with, who are the same generation as Koke or even older, but they don't have that authority. They don't just take the whole team, you know, off their shoulders and move them. So you do need in a game that as decisive as a quarterfinal with very young teams like England has and Spain has, you need to have someone that has the authority and that everyone can look up to and follow their instructions and their lead. And I think that tomorrow is going to be a very physical game too. So you need some strong guys here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Chris, any changes to the team you'd make from last start?
Well, this is the thing. I think I would not be as inclined to change in the centre of the park. I mean, I definitely see the case for Henderson. He's the leader of the team. Like, let's not make any mistake about that. But I think I'm of the mindset where we started the tournament really slowly. I think we're the only team that's ever gone through our group having only scored 2 goals. Yes, we haven't conceded still, but we've not really looked we've not looked in danger, but we've not looked like we are kind of commanding, you know, in the game, in terms of taking the game to the opposition, you know, sort of putting on the pressure on a consistent basis. So then I think with the injury that Henderson had, I think, can he come in? And I mean, obviously he's been training and you know, he's going to be working throughout training. I don't know. I mean, you know, I can see the case for putting him there. Absolutely. And I think, do we want to save him for the business end of the tournament a bit more? You know, like the semi-final and the final. Saka, I mean, I've been surprised Saka's even been in the tournament. You know, but goes to the tournament he went. He gives some. I'm not saying he's better than Foden or Mount or any of these players, but he's clearly a lot more direct than all of the other attacking midfield options that we have. So maybe he stays, but I think the one change I would want to see is Grealish. I mean, the guy has made cameo appearances in all of the games, and he's got the most assists. You know, his chance creation has been the highest. His dribbling, successful take-ons, all of these have been the highest. So it's that would be the one change that I would look at, and the only change, I think. But you know, then again, Sterling is a difficult to take him out of the team. And this is a thing me and a few of my friends have spoken about. We've been getting on at Southgate about the selections. We looked at the back three against in our last game against Germany, and we thought, you know, why has he gone with a back three, and why hasn't he put Sancho or Grealish in? And then, you know, look, they done the good. So I'm just going to sit back and trust him. But
yeah, that's good. That's good.
I think that would be the one player that I would look at, Grealish, because he's had that impact, you know, in those games, and it's been fairly consistent.
It's a shame because he operates centre or left rather than right, where Sacco does. It's a shame because with Sterling, you can't drop Sterling now. He's on fire down that left-hand side. So if we swapped out Saka, it would have to be for Bellingham or Sancho, I guess, down that side, or Mount. And I don't know. I just think if it's not broke.
Sorry, Italy just scored.
Did they? Wow! I need to. We'll run in a mo and we'll watch that again. It might be a bit early for them. One last thought: it's going to be in Rome. It's even though it's 8 o'clock in the evening, the forecast is 27 to 29 degrees heat.
Wow!
And there's a good chance that the Ukraine will have a lot more supporters than England will have because of the travel restrictions, and Ukraine don't have them into Europe for some weird reason. I think Europe seem to love Ukraine and want them to join the European community, and they sure as hell bloody hate us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put a load of Germans officiating the game, would they? So on that basis, we've got a gang of Germans officiating. We got rip-roaring hot weather, and the good old Europeans have let loads more Ukrainian supporters in than English. Is that a disadvantage either? Thoughts, Chris, Rossa?
The weather definitely is going to be, and it's also going to be likely very, very humid. So that could work against either teams, I think, because it's not like the Ukrainians are used to very hot weather. So it will affect both teams equally, I would say.
Surely Saka will have the engine to cope with that, Chris.
I think so, yeah. And I think, you know, what Rosa mentioned there about sort of the humidity, I think, look, these guys are professionals. They would have done, you know, kind of humidity, high altitude training in the run up to the tournaments for these occasions. But yeah, I would say, you know, whilst our climates are both fairly cold, the Ukrainian one is a lot colder than the English one by and large. So maybe that might disadvantage them slightly. And maybe that would balance out with having more supporters in the ground. But I don't expect that to be a major issue. As far as the officiating thing goes as well, look, you know, I think these are professionals. You know, they've got to do a professional job. And you'd like to think that they would put what happened against Germany aside. And I hope, well, yeah, I mean, you know, I trust that will be the case.
Most of the Ukrainian lads actually take their trade. They play outside of the Ukraine, I think, whereas most of the English lads obviously play in England. So I guess that's. Do we know whether the Italy goal's standing? I don't know on that one. Anyway,
it's not stood.
Let's wrap up from you. Final thoughts of Spain and then England. Can Spain go further? Will England beat Ukraine?
I would love for Spain to beat Italy on a semi-final and then get to the final, maybe hopefully with England, and let the best team win after that. But good luck tomorrow. England's favourite tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I like that, but Gunnar Chris,
I would.
What's your final thoughts?
I would say, yeah. I mean, Spain, they got through. They did what they had to do, and then I think their character's definitely going to be building as they kind of progress in the tournament. It's a young team, and a new manager in Enrique. So whilst they're looking to the future, it's good to see them, obviously preparing for that now by advancing in the tournament. It's going to bode these players well in the future years. England, I mean, yeah, we're favourites, but I agree with you. I don't feel 100% comfortable with that. I worry about a sense of complacency taking over the players and the managers. It's not what I'm saying is going to happen, but I just worry that they could go on the pitch and think the job's done and find themselves in dangerous waters. And look, I mean, it's a fantastic chance to get to the final when you look at the 3 teams on paper that stand in our way. Denmark, Ukraine, and is it Sweden?
Yeah.
They're playing Denmark. No, it's
Denmark and come on.
Yeah,
Denmark and come on.
Yeah, my friend. Czech Republic. Yeah.
Oh,
we've already played. So
yeah,
I mean, look,
we've seen before from Croatia. That means nothing later on in the tournament when you're playing again.
Exactly that. Yeah. So I think we've just got to hope for the best. Get behind Southgate, get behind whoever he picks, and I'm sure that we can get a result.
Come on, thank you both, and as Phil's just mentioned, thank you, Guy, thank you, Gal, Senor, adios, hasta mañana, vamos Inglaterra, yeah,
Vamos.
right, Rossi, yeah,
good luck,
yeah. Adios. Thanks both. Cheers.
Ciao.
For everybody else watching, you got to share us, like us. I thought we did okay. International show and all that. We deserve it. Cheers. Bye. Here's to the semis.